So a lot of people are going to be talking about Evercrisis right now because it's the hottest thing. We just saw an amazing drop with the Glenn chapter a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, and now we have the final two chapters, 5 and 6. But you know me, here at Funky Film Reviews, we gotta be the person that is just a little bit different. Let's get into it. So yes, I finally finished the Evercrisis chapters 5 and 6, and I think there's a major key that a lot of people aren't talking about. Typically, I come from the aspect a little bit contrarian. I like to talk about things that not everybody else is talking about. Spoiler warning. This is a spoiler warning. This is a spoiler warning. Hello there. This is a spoiler warning. Turn off now or forever hold your peace. And the general theme kind of right now is people are talking about how this shows that Sephiroth overcame Jenovas Will. This shows that Angeal and this shows that Alyssa and this shows that Bachman was a robed man, which are predicted on this channel. I'll clip it right here. So you can see whoever had the camera or whoever was recording is now a Sephiroth zombie. How did they become a Sephiroth clone zombie? We don't really know. But what I want to talk about is something I've been echoing on this channel for a while. And that is that ever since that one trailer, it's been made abundantly clear to me that Jenova is the big bad.
The only thing I care about, the maximum of life, is Sephiroth Redemption Arc. That is all I care about, like top priorities. Because there's a reason why they showed us Glenn, they showed us young Sephiroth, they showed us the white feathers coming down from the helicopter when Sephiroth dropped down. There's a reason for that. It's not just, oh, they just threw it in. No. It's because they're showing us who the one-winged angel was. And now they're going to go to the dark side, show that he's manipulated by Jenova. And my take is, which you can agree with, you can disagree with, but this is where we're at.
And a lot of people want to fight me on it. I'm glad that this overall sword was conjured up by Masamune, who forged it because he heard a voice and they told him to forge this. And we find out that in Igara and Robio, that there was this malevolent presence, which obviously was Jenova, that helped him and brainwashed him and made him forge the sword and helped him live hundreds of years to then be able to still be alive today, which doesn't make any sense in the Final Fantasy world unless you were infused by Jenova. But what I want to talk about today is the final scene that happened in Evercrisis. And yes, I'm going to take some time to break down all the other stuff. I'm going to take time to get my Queen's Blood video out. I saw somebody on Twitter actually talk about, hey, this seems similar to what Ladrell bought. And I was like, oh man, someone's going to come up with my Queen's Blood theory, so I have to get that out ASAP. But I am going to kind of roll with a lot of the Evercrisis stuff because it's hot, it's amazing lore, and there's a lot of themes and ideas that I think are going to go beyond what people are kind of comprehending in terms of what's actually happening. And this is kind of one of those scenes. So at the end of the Evercrisis chapter, we're in the chopper with Angeal and with Sephiroth. And Angeal says, look at Alyssa's smile. And when he shows the video to Sephiroth, Sephiroth looks at it and he's like, whoa, this is Alyssa? Because we now see that what Sephiroth was seeing as Dr. Lucrezia Crescent, or someone who looks very similar to her, Jenova, what he would call her because he doesn't know her real name, is exactly who this Alyssa character was. But he finds out through the video that Angeal and Bachman didn't see her the same way as he was perceiving her, which tells us immediately that Jenova was manipulating Sephiroth's mind, which was obvious, but from a more kind of direct line of contact with Sephiroth. And we have to remember that on the Costa del Sol boat, what Sephiroth tells us when he's holding the Angeal piece, when he's holding the Jenova piece, and he's telling Cloud and Yuffie and Barrett, Jenova will do anything to fool her prey. She'll become those you fear, those you love, those you hate. And this is exactly that, showing us that Jenova has a hold on Sephiroth that's beyond the sword, because Sephiroth does not have the sword at that point in time. And a lot of people are not going to be talking about this very small aspect, which is where I kind of thrive in these little small aspects, because I always come to these ideas from the perspective that because I worked in kind of the movie industry for 5 years, I always come at it from the mindset that directors try to hide key pieces of plot information in front of you because they kind of get off on that. They kind of like to outsmart you. They say, oh, we even showed you and you didn't realize and then we're going to come back and show you again so you can put it all together. Kind of like how Isayama wrote Attack on Titan. And I'll show another example of this in the whole breakdown that I'm going to be doing eventually about Glenn, because I want to break down his chapters, and I kind of did like a diagram, which is going to be a new series of kind of whiteboard, Final Fantasy VII whiteboard, because a lot of times my ideas, you can maybe think they're going like all this, but I'm going to attach them in a diagram so it's very kind of clear and succinct. But when Rufus is speaking to the board, he's talking about, and Sung's talking about Viceroy Saruf, what Scarlet says is, oh, the invisible man, which what we learn about in now is that Viceroy Saruf is not a real person, is not a real thing. It's something that Rufus and Glenn conjured up to get the backing of the SRC to fight against Shinra under this idea of this leader that does not exist, is not a real person. And she hinted at it right there where she says, oh, the invisible man. So I'll clip that here also just to show an example of what I mean by directors hide things right in front of you, because they get off on it. They're like, yes, I tricked you. A lot of like Christopher Nolan stuff, a lot of it, like I said, Isayama stuff, who wrote Attack on Titan. But the important piece here of how Evercrisis does that exact same thing is, like I said, at the end in the video when Sephiroth realizes that Alyssa was not Dr. Lucretia Crescient's image, it was another girl with like a cross braid in front of her head. We see something very, very specific, which is that when Sephiroth is looking at the video and then has this reaction like, oh, what the heck? This is Alyssa? And Angeal notices that visually, a visual cue of Sephiroth, and he's like, oh, what's wrong? And Sephiroth says, oh, nothing. And this might not seem important to a lot of people who kind of follow these things. Oh, it's just a small, but it's like, no, that actually is a huge thing. Because it tells us that even before Sephiroth had the sword, that Jenova was working on him in his mind, manipulating him to show him that I actually control you. And that little seed that's inside Sephiroth is how they can further explain how it eventually grew. Because what we find out is that Angeal used the sword, obviously the king, the goat Angeal, used the sword to protect Sephiroth from Jenova. But in doing that, Sephiroth realizes, oh, he used this sword to protect me. He must be my friend. I know that Angeal never uses his sword in any other kind of circumstance. And we kind of have a little bit of a parallel between when Zack is in Crisis Core fighting anti-Shinra soldiers in Wutai, and he turns his back, gets attacked, and then after Angeal comes in, slices it, and saves him and tells him, you're a little bit more important than my sword. And I wish you would have kind of said the same line to kind of have a little Easter egg there, but he didn't. But it's kind of the same. If you follow the Crisis Core, if you're a big Angeal fan like I am, he's my favorite soldier, you'll see a lot of the aspects that I talk about in my earlier videos where Angeal's the only perfect soldier. Angeal's the only one who has full control of the Jenova copies. Angeal's the only one who's clearly showing that he can fight against Jenova's influence. Who did Angeal pass down all of his mental fortitude to? He passed it on to Zack. Why are Angeal and Zack able to fight against Jenova? Because they had a proper upbringing. Angeal even says it in Evercrisis where he says, it's because of my strong family values. It's because I had a strong family that instilled these things into me, and I'm able to tell that they wouldn't lie to me. Cloud doesn't have a strong family because he's missing his dad, has his mom, runs away as a kid. Sephiroth doesn't have a strong family because Professor Hojo, worst friggin' guy, narcissist in the world, crazy evil scientist. Dr. Lucretia Crescent doesn't even know she ever existed, never held her son. So those kind of parallels with Zack and Angeal, and also the parallels with Sephiroth and Cloud, are super important, because in the final view, we learn that Sephiroth has the seed of Jenova still implanted inside of him. So I wanted to come out and make a quick video about that, because a lot of people are going to be talking about how, oh, this shows that Sephiroth's will overcame Jenova. But really, the ending shows us that actually, no, he didn't. And he's concealing the fact, he's lying to Angeal, saying, oh yeah, don't worry, nothing's wrong. And this is like the typical thing you see at the end of every horror movie, the vampire who turns his head at the end and you see he has a fang, or the person from, what's that movie with the cave, where at the end is like, oh, we finally got rid, we made it out of the cave, and the guy turns his eyes and he's actually infected. It's all kind of those kind of illusions to show you that, oh, actually there is a bigger problem here brewing until Sephiroth truly does resolve the issue. And I'm going to say something here that's going to maybe frustrate people, get them in the comments, have the comment, keyboard warriors, all that stuff. But as always, argue about it in the comments, where I'm going to say that this is kind of like a Thor kind of moment where the sword was created by Jenova. Jenova has a hold on Sephiroth and all the other Sephiroth clones, whatever. But what it seems like they're building towards is that to truly defeat Jenova, it has to be something that came from Jenova. So my whole view on the Sephiroth Redemption Arc is now even taking a leap forward, saying, yeah, I think actually Sephiroth needs to destroy Jenova because it has to be the sword that actually destroys Jenova. And that's not something that you hear a lot of people talk about. But for me, it's made abundantly clear with the white feather dropping in the final battle between Angeal and Sephiroth, with the white feather dropping down from the helicopter, showing us that Sephiroth is gonna sprout his white wing. I said that in like a year and a half ago, 2 years. It's like, this is not the way it's supposed to be going, the way that they originally told us. So wanted to come out, share that with you guys before I get into the detailed stuff, before I get the Queen's Blood video going, before I get my diagram and whiteboard videos going, to just be the first, the only one talking about how Sephiroth Redemption Arc, and never forget, it's always Jenova. Disagree? Agree? As always, let's argue about it in the comments, and I'll catch you guys on tomorrow's video. Peace. Hey.